So here we go. Part of what we talked about yesterday is identifying amplitude and period of a sine or cosine graph. Remember that the amplitude is the distance of the top of the graph or the bottom of the graph from the center. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and identify the amplitude for all 6 of these real quick, and then we're going to identify the period. The amplitude is the absolute value of the number in front. So what's the amplitude going to be here? 4. How about here? And 2. 3. 4. And 3. So that means when you would make your graph, you would go, say, 4 units high or 2 units high, and you go that many low as well. So amplitude is pretty basic, right? Notice that it's always positive because it's always the absolute value. So on the test, would you ever write a negative number for amplitude? If you want to get it wrong. Period is a little bit more difficult. You take 2 pi and divide it by b. B is the number in front of x. What is the number in front of x? So 2 pi divided by 1 is just 2 pi. What that means is it completes 1 full cycle in 2 pi units. Same thing here. You can see that the number in front of x is 1. So therefore the period is 2 pi. You got that, Tanner? All right. What's the number here? -4. So we say 2 pi divided by -4. Can I simplify that? Yep. Negative 1/2 pi, right? Or we write as negative pi over 2. And this you also write as positive. So just pi over 2. Just always write the period as positive. We're not going to talk about those negative values in this class. They really don't come up very often. This one's a little bit different. I have the period, I take 2 pi, and I divide it by what? 2/3. I don't divide by fractions. Instead, I multiply by reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 2. What's going to happen when you multiply by 3 over 2? 2's cancel, leaving me with 3 pi. So, as I write it, 2 pi divided by 2/3. Instead of dividing by 2/3, I'm going to multiply by 3/2. So I just changed my operation. So I can cancel, I just changed the problem. Anyway, we do get 3 pi out of that. How about the next one? 2 pi over 5. And there's no simplifying that, so it's done. And the last one, the period is 2 pi divided by -2. Notice the 2's cancel, we'll write it as positive, and you just get pi. If you look at a graph, you should be able to tell its period or amplitude as well. What is the amplitude here? 3. Amplitude here? 4. Amplitude here? 2. And amplitude here? 5. Determining the period is a little bit more challenging. What I'm going to do is I want to see how long it takes for it to complete 1 cycle. I'll show you 1 cycle. 1 cycle is where it goes up, comes back down, and returns up to that same position. How far have I traveled to get from here to here? Just pi units, exactly. And then if you watch, the distance from pi to 2 pi is also just pi units. Notice how you complete another section. Or in the opposite direction, you complete 1 section every pi units. So the period is pi. What I would like you to do is I'd like you to see if you can figure out the period for 11, 12, and 13 on your own. Go ahead, make some guesses, go. Here we go. So we got 2 pi for number 11, 4 pi for number 12, and 2 pi for number 13. Okay? A couple more, and then we'll graph, and then you can do your assignment. So we're going to give you problems like this, and you want to be able to identify the amplitude and the period. Okay? Amplitude for letter A. 2. How about the period? 2 pi over 3. Any questions? Letter B, amplitude. 3, period. I take 2 pi and divide it by what? What's the number in front of x? Close, 1 over 4. 1 over 4 is the number in front of x. Okay, it's a 1/4. So how do I do 2 pi divided by 1/4? What's the reciprocal? 4. So you get 8 pi is the period. Letter C, what's the amplitude? 1. The period, I got to take 2 pi and divide it by what? I divide it by 2 pi over 5. That's the number in front of x. How do I do that? $5 bill. All right, last one, amplitude. 1/4, period. 2 pi divided by, and what do you give if you take 2 pi divided by pi? Dos, which is Spanish for 2. $2 bill. Yeah, I'll play it after this on YouTube. All right, so we did this one yesterday. We start with this one right here, okay? Amplitude and period. We got 3 graphs to do, and you guys are going to be good to go. What's the amplitude? 1. So what I do with my graph is I go up to 1, and I go down to -1. For the period, I take 2 pi and divide it by b. So what's your b value? 1. So 2 pi divided by 1 is 2 pi. So I'm trying to lay out the structure of my graph, trying to lay out the tick marks. So I mark off 2 pi. I divide it in half to get pi. Divide that in half to get pi over 2. Now, whenever you get confused, usually everybody's able to get those tick marks. The third tick mark is always just 3 times the first tick mark. Okay? Because it's 3 of them. So it'll be 3 pi over 2. Mark off -2 pi, -pi, -pi over 2, -3 pi over 2. Okay, sine. Does sine start in the middle or does it start at the max or min? Which one? Starts at the middle. Now, do you remember the sine graph? Did it start by going up or did it start by going down? Start by going up, but notice this sine graph has a negative in front of it. What happens? Yeah, what happens with the graph is when you put a negative in front, it flips it vertically, doesn't it? So instead of starting by going up, it's going to start by going down. So that means I'm going to head on down to -1 here at pi over 2. After I'm all the way at the bottom, where do I go then? I go back up, I cross over the middle, and I go all the way to the top, and then come back down. You can follow this pattern. You can see right here, I'm on my way up. back down. I have to cross over the middle, get to the bottom, back up. Check out your neighbor's sine graph, see how it looks. Give them a score of 1 out of 10. Tell them how good it looks. One more time, what?
How do you do the graph? That's my, how do you know where to put the point?
The starting one.
I just don't know how to do the whole thing.
Okay, let's try the next one, see how that one works, okay? Amplitude. 4. Period. 2. So I mark off 4. I had a period of 2, so I put 2 at the end. Divide 2 in half and you get 1. Divide 1 in half and you get a half. The third tick mark is always 3 times the first tick mark. 1 1/2 or 3 halves. Love the Def Leppard shirt. Your 3 favorite Def Leppard songs. I'm going Hysteria, by far is my favorite one. Animal. Rock of Ages. Yeah? All right, sine. Where do I start? Start in the middle, right here. Now, a lot of people wonder, where do you go with the dots? Once you define where you start, okay, sine always starts in the middle, then you have to decide, the sine graph, does it start by going up or down? Up. So then as you move to the next tick mark, you have to go up. So you go up to the top of your amplitude. Once I'm at the top, there's nowhere to go but down. As I start to head down, I have to cross over the middle before I get to the bottom. So after you're at the top, then cross over the middle and then get to the bottom. Once you're at the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. I was glad you saw the connection there. I'm not gonna waste words on things like you. Okay.
So that one went up 4, but then the last one.
Well, the amplitude is 4, so I went up to 4. This one had an amplitude of 1, so I went up to 1. So I like that dot to be closer up to 1, if you know what I'm saying. And then this right here, like you have -1 here, so it should only go down to -1. Wherever you put your tick mark for that, that's where it should go.
So it's always going to be the same then?
Yep. Okay, last one. What's the amplitude? 2. And what's the period? What? What? 6 pi. We got 2 pi, and we divide it by 1/3, and Greta is right. We got 6 pi. Because 2 pi divided by 1/3, you end up multiplying by the 3, and we get 6 pi. So I'm going to mark off 2 and -2.
What's the answer?
It's 6 pi. I mark off 6 pi. What's half of 6 pi? 3 pi. Now watch, because this is where people make mistakes. Boys, eyes up here. Eyes up here. What's half of 3 pi? 1.5 pi. The way we write that is just 3 pi over 2. Not 3.5 pi over 2. 3 pi over 2. Notice what I said. I said, what's half of 3 pi? So I just took 3 pi and wrote it over 2. The third tick mark is always 3 times the first tick mark. 9 pi over 2. Thank you, Judley. Okay, it's a cosine graph. Does cosine start at the max or the min? Or does it start at the middle or does it start at the max or min? Max or min, right? So if it's positive, it starts up at the max. But the negative makes it flip to the bottom. So it's going to start at the min. So I'm at the bottom. Where do I go from there? Up. I have to cross over the middle. Then I go to the top. Back to the middle. And down to the bottom. You complete the same pattern on the other side. And that's that. Okay. Did I give you worksheets yesterday? Okay.